Hi, my name is Alex. I'm a professional psychic medium and Reiki master teacher, and I teach classes on psychic development and psychic protection. One of the questions that I have noticed that I get asked the most often is, what is the difference between something coming from your ego, something coming from your anxiety, and something coming from your actual intuition? Let's break it down. So, these three voices, ego, anxiety, and intuition, they all run through similar channels. They can feel similar enough at the surface that even folks who have been doing this for years can get them mixed up. That can definitely be an issue because we need to be able to definitively tell them apart in order to work with our intuition and to trust it. I'm going to teach you some easy ways to do this. Understand that a lot of highly intuitive people can also be highly sensitive and highly anxious. Sometimes what in part forges a person who is super perceptive is a nervous system that has been through a lot of very hard things, and it shaped them into someone who is hypervigilant, scanning their environment constantly for what could potentially happen next. The scan itself can feel like a type of intuitive knowing. This scanning has potentially kept someone safe for many years, and it has helped them to survive threatening environments, so it's natural to trust it. The hypervigilance steers them away from anything that could potentially bring them harm. That was me for a very long time, so I deeply relate to that. It can be a form of protection until you find yourself in a position when the trauma has long since ended, but your system is stuck on high alert and has forgotten how to downshift back to baseline, back to regulation. It's like your emergency system is stuck on. If that's you, understand that your initial work in psychic development is going to be helping your system understand that the world is safe enough for you to relax and regulate, to stop scanning and prepping for attack. The timeline of being successful at this is different for everyone, and it requires being very kind and very patient and very gentle with yourself. Because it's difficult for us to successfully receive psychic information if we are stressed out, if not impossible. So again, the first part is finding your way to a place of calm where you are relaxed enough to receive information from your extrasensory organs of perception. Once you're there and you can successfully relax for a good long period of time, then you can start to do more work to discover whether something that you're receiving is coming from the big three: ego, intuition, or anxiety. I want to start here with ego. People love to talk about ego like it's this bad part of us that we must eliminate or banish or get rid of. There's this idea that the ego is the most selfish part of us, that it's this thing you're supposed to somehow dissolve. But understand that that's not what ego actually is. Our ego serves a purpose, an important one. We need it in order to feel confident and assertive and to know our worth and our value. It plays a huge role in our ability to advocate for ourselves, to go after what we want because we know we're worthy of that. The ego is what keeps you from dissolving every time someone disagrees with you. It's a coherent sense of who you are. It's firmly attached to your sense of identity. But what we want is a healed ego and not an unhealed ego. So the problem isn't the ego existing. It's when the ego is the one running the show during work that needs you to actively set it aside. So how do you know that something is coming from ego? It's coming from ego if it is defending something about you. So ask yourself if there is a story underneath it. Something like, I'm a good person, I would never miss this, or I would never do this, or this person couldn't possibly be lying because of who I believe that they are, or they would never lie to me. Ego is always, always about you specifically, about maintaining the version of yourself that you've already decided is true. There is very little room in the ego for complexity or nuance or duality or the unknown. It holds one truth above all other truths, even if that truth defies logic or rationality. The ego will always choose to make itself feel better rather than facing a possibly uncomfortable truth or conflict, or dealing with reality shifting in a way that it doesn't agree with. In terms of the body, the ego sits in the head, the jaw, the front of the throat. There's a forward-leaning quality to it, like you're already getting ready to defend. An ego loops. It's very repetitive. It rehearses. It keeps going because it's trying to protect something, and the threat to that thing doesn't go away easily. The ego will fight for the reality that feels the best or the most comfortable, even if it's not rooted in truth. Our second voice is anxiety. And anxiety is definitely the one that fools people the most, because anxiety can feel exactly like our true intuition, and that can be really tough. So when your nervous system has been through something hard before, it will pattern match the present onto that past, constantly, incessantly. And when anxiety picks something up, it delivers what feels very strongly like a premonition or a prophecy. Anxiety says something bad is going to happen. The worst is going to happen, and it's guaranteed, so we must prepare now. Anxiety says they're going to leave and abandon me, and I know it. Anxiety says this isn't going to work no matter how hard I try. Anxiety says what happened to me before is going to happen to me again right now. Anxiety says I know in my heart that the plane is going to crash. Anxiety has the quality of certainty. It feels very important. It feels very urgent. It feels like a download, but it's not. What it is your nervous system firing on outdated data that no longer applies. In the body, anxiety sits lower than the ego. It tends to live in the chest, the gut, the diaphragm, pulled tight, heat in the face. It's contraction. It's your body bracing for a threat that may or may not actually be there. And anxiety builds, it escalates, it crescendos. One of the biggest tells for anxiety is this feeling that you have to act on it for it to feel resolved, and that any relief is temporary. Then it comes back about something else. Same physiological process, different focus, different topic, but your body responds in the exact same way. And then there's the third and the most important voice, the one we actually want to listen to, your actual intuition. Intuition is the quiet one. That's why people will often miss it or immediately talk themselves out of it by overanalyzing it. Because they're listening for something that they expect to be dramatic, a booming voice from above or within, an extremely clear vision with extremely clear meaning. And the thing about intuition is that it's almost never dramatic. It's really very matter of fact, very steady, very calm. Intuition arrives once. It doesn't argue. It doesn't loop. It doesn't try to convince you. There's not urgency. It comes in a sudden flash, an image, a word, a sudden clarity that wasn't there a moment ago. By the time your mind starts to engage, the signal has already delivered. It's precognitive. It comes in before you've had a chance to think deeply about it. That's why we're able to receive extrasensory perceptive information when we are relaxed, when we're not trying. In the body, intuition doesn't grip. It drops, it settles. Sometimes there's a small expansion somewhere, the sternum, the crown, the back of the head. I always feel a certain activation or pressure in my third eye, but it's open. It's not contracted, it's simply there. It's not forced, it is calm. And this is important. The message itself from your intuition has no emotional charge, no urgency. It's just information. If you feel righteous about it, that's ego. If you feel scared or freaked out, that's anxiety. But if you just feel the quiet weight of knowing, that is your intuition, your sixth sense, your extrasensory perception. Understand that if you ignore intuition, it doesn't get louder. It doesn't scream at you or hassle you. It just sits there calmly, unchanged. And that, I think, is one of the hardest things to learn, that the loud signal is almost never the intuitive one. The loud signal is one of the other two voices trying very hard to get your attention. Now, things can get a little tangly when the signal is both accurate and your nervous system is the one producing it. Both can actually be true at the same time. I know. There will be times where you really did accurately read the situation and then your body recognized something, a posture, a smell, a cadence, a tone, something that mapped to a previous threat. And it produced certainty about a stranger that maybe wasn't actually about that stranger. Understand that that doesn't make the signal wrong. It just means that you can't necessarily take it at face value. You have to step back and examine what produced it. And the way to look at what produced it is to ask whether it loops, whether it has a charge, where it's living in your body. If it loops, it's not intuition, it's ego. Intuition says it once and then doesn't really change. If it has an emotional charge, if you feel invested, righteous, scared, vindicated, if it has a story, that's not intuition either. Intuition is neutral. It's information. There's no feeling attached. And with the body thing, you build a map of yourself over time. What I feel in my body and where will not perfectly match yours. But once you have yours, you can read it pretty fast. Once you figure out how your three voices speak to you specifically, discerning where something is coming from gets so much easier. The reason that any of this matters is that the voice that we trust shapes the life that we build. Anxiety is going to steer you away from anything that resembles old pain, whether or not that pain is still relevant. It makes your life get smaller. The territory of what is safe keeps shrinking. Ego will keep you loyal to who you've already decided that you are. You can't grow and you can't learn and you can't develop if you're constantly projecting that from ever being threatened. And intuition, the one that we want to listen to, doesn't care about either of those things. It just tells you what's there, which is why it's the only one of the three that can move you somewhere you haven't been before, that can spark growth. That is psychic development. Everything else is technique on top of that one thing. So if you struggle to tell the three voices apart, understand that you're not getting more accurate, you're just getting louder, and louder is not necessarily the goal. My name is Alex Phillips, and if you want to learn more about intuition and psychic development, like and subscribe. You can also join my Patreon, where I post long-form teachings on these subjects and weekly and monthly psychic readings. That's patreon.com/indigowellnessva. If you would like an energy healing session, a psychic reading, a cleansing, a consultation, or if you would like to work or study with me, head to my website at indigowellnessva.com. Thanks for watching. Thanks for trusting me. See you soon.